Ohio finds new foes in the fight against opioid addiction. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Jackie Borchert, State House reporter for Cleveland.com. Joe Ingles, State House reporter for Ohio Public Radio. Derek Clay, Democratic strategist, and Bob Clegg, Republican strategist. With up to a dozen people in Ohio dying each day from drug overdoses, the state's top law enforcement officer has a new target: drug companies. Attorney General Mike DeWine this week announced Ohio is suing 5 companies that make opioid painkillers. He says the firms flooded the state with addictive drugs and misled doctors and patients.
These drug manufacturers led doctors to believe that these were not addictive, that addiction was an easy thing to overcome, or that addiction could actually be treated by taking even more pills. These drug companies knew that what they were saying was wrong, but they did it anyway, and they continue to do so.
The companies that did respond say the charges in the lawsuit are unfounded. Ohio is now only one of a handful of states that have sued drug companies over the opioid crisis. Joe Ingles, what is the Attorney General looking for here? Is he looking for money? What's he trying to do with this lawsuit?
Well, a couple of things. He wants to raise awareness, first of all, of the problem, but secondly, he would like to get the money from it, because he says if he could get some money from it, he would use it for treatment. He would use it to repay the state for things like child protective services that they've had to take over so many families that could not care for their children. And so the Child Protective Services have put a ton of money into that. But there's, this whole idea of, it's going to take a long time in this lawsuit. I mean, if you look at the tobacco lawsuit, which was somewhat similar, it took many years to bring that to fruition. And so, even if they get money out of this, it's probably not going to be in the short term.
Any dollar figure that was mentioned, how much he's looking for?
I think he's trying to take it to a jury and hoping for the sky.
Jackie, do they have a case? Is it a strong case? Have other states been successful on this?
Well, only one other state has actually gone after these drug makers, and that's Mississippi, and their suit was challenged. And that was back in 2015. It's still working its way through the courts, and it was initially challenged whether the state could even bring the suit. And they're making similar claims as Ohio is under similar statutes in their state law. But I think it could accelerate if more states decide to join. We've seen cities and counties, West Virginia, some counties in West Virginia, New York, California, have all filed suit against distributors. Kentucky has been successful in against 2 of these companies, Purdue Pharma and Janssen, and they settled with them outside of court back in 2015 for, I think it was $24 million from Purdue, paid over a dozen years, and $15.5 million from Janssen, also paid over an extended period of time. And again, that's a settlement. So, when DeWine is saying he's not putting a dollar figure on this, I think people who are really serious about this lawsuit would like to see a lot more than that.
Bobby's a Republican governor, or governor candidate, Attorney General, suing a business, corporations. Sure. Usually Republicans are anti-lawsuit and pro-big company.
Yeah, but I mean, let's face it, this is a gigantic problem, not only here in Ohio, but across the country. And I think he just felt the pressure that something had to be done. I think it's unfortunate that many people are pointing to this and stating that it's looks sort of political, because he is getting ready to ramp up his campaign for governor. But I think that's just the unfortunate timing in all of this.
It did come 2 weeks after 2 other candidates, the Democrats for governor, said they want to sue companies.
Yes, and that's where I worry that it's going to get lost in the campaign. It is, like Joe said, it's going to take years and years, and I think that this is something that probably won't resolve itself until many other states jump in, and we're going to probably end up with a tobacco-like settlement thing.
Mm-hmm. Democrats are saying we've been saying this for a couple of years, Derek.
Yeah, I guess for me, the timing is questionable, and I agree with Bob on that. And the other question is, why now? Why is this lawsuit just coming at this time when the Attorney General is running for governor? I know that some of the other candidates have put that out there, in terms of dealing with this issue of going after the drug companies. But, our chair, David Pepper, our chairman, brought this issue up a couple years ago. And
When he was running against Mike DeWine.
when he was running against Mike DeWine, and then even at that time there was no action. So, you have to ask why now? Why is this timing right now, and what has been done up until this point through the Attorney General's office?
Why not go after the distributors? We've gone after the doctors, we've gone after the pharmacies, now the manufacturers. The other link is distributors.
Well, DeWine would tell you that there's a solid case against these manufacturers, and there's not quite as solid a case against the distributors. But you've got to remember that this is costing Ohio a fortune. I mean, this whole epidemic, $40 million in 2014 and $110 million in 2016 for treatment through Medicaid. And we're looking at Medicaid expansion possibly going away, and that's being used to treat a lot of people. So
But Cardinal
I think
Health,
that's now.
so back to the distributors, Bob, Cardinal Health, huge employer in Central Ohio, actually the whole state of Ohio, big contributor to a lot of candidates, Mike DeWine being one of them. It'd be hard to sue Cardinal Health, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an Ohio-based company, like you said, and it employs a lot of people, and you don't want to do anything that's going to, cost people their jobs. But on the other hand, we got to do something about this problem because there's a lot of people losing jobs because they're addicts and they can't get treatment. So, something's got to be done.
Highlighting the problem a day after the lawsuit was filed, Lieutenant Governor Mary Taylor disclosed that her family has coped with opioid addiction. She told the Dayton Daily News' Laura Bischoff that both her sons were hooked on opiates. She says she wants to get a message to other families dealing with addiction.
I think it's always important to have hope. There are resources available. I can tell you as a parent, I felt at times that there weren't. And I think the most important thing as a family truly, truly is to believe there's hope.
Clay, what did you make of her disclosure? It was pretty heartfelt. You could tell she really didn't want to talk about it, but she also wanted to get her message out there.
Yeah,
I don't want to give many details. What she wanted to do.
I mean, it's a tough situation. I mean, people are out there dying. People are hooked on these drugs. My hope is that all of these candidates that are running for office just don't politicize this issue and play Russian roulette with people's lives.
She said more has to be done, but she didn't ask for the rainy day fund to be used. She didn't want to declare a crisis. I mean, is that what has to be done with this current legislature? Not just the campaign, but this current legislature.
Yeah, I mean, this is a problem that involves a lot of different elements, and it needs to be attacked from many different angles. And when you start looking at, for example, Mary Taylor has been an outspoken opponent of the Medicaid expansion, and that is being used to treat a lot of people. So if that goes away, Ohio's going to have to come up with more money now. And that's just one area of it. There are 24 probably different areas that you can look at that contribute to this problem.
Okay. His name always comes up. He has a political background. When he speaks about policy, it's very impressive as a liberal populist. He knows his stuff. He has great name recognition. Just one problem. He has this TV show. All right, there we go. Finally fighting on Columbus on the Record. Jerry Springer, Business Insider this week reports that some influential Democrats urge him to run for governor. Springer did not rule it out, saying on Twitter, "If I throw my hat in the ring, I'll let you know. Right now, I don't even have a hat." Derek Clay, can he win if he were to run?
Well, if you would have asked me that question a year ago, I would have said, probably not. But after we, as a country, have elected Donald Trump as our president, I think anything is possible. A lot of people don't know that Jerry Springer has a political background. I mean,
former mayor of Cincinnati.
Yeah, he was on city council in Cincinnati. He was a former mayor of Cincinnati. He was actually a television anchor for a while. So he knows politics. He knows how to play to the cameras. He's got his own money. And I think that a combination of all of those things, even in this era of Trump, I think he could be a formidable candidate.
all of 2015, Bob, Democrats could not wait to run against Donald Trump.
I know.
Do Republicans want to run against Jerry Springer?
I don't know. I mean, the problem with this is this is a tricky game, and we have a different landscape these days. This could work out really well, or it could be a gigantic bomb that just blows up. I do have a suggestion, though, for running mate, Dennis Kucinich. I think a Springer-Kucinich ticket would be wonderful. But I think it's a little different because it's on the Democrat side. I don't know if they have that real populist flavor. I guess they do with Bernie Sanders, and they had that somewhat in last year. I think it tells you more about the shape of the Democrat Party here in Ohio that we're even discussing this.
Jackie, he would appeal, I think, to working class Democrats.
Right.
What strikes me when I've heard Jerry Springer speak is you have the image of the TV show. But when he talks about policy and politics, it's so different. I mean, there's some depth there. Would that win over people? Would it be enough to overcome what we saw on television? People
You mean
fighting each other?
win his regular viewing audience and also people who might be right?
Who only know him for this crazy show.
Yeah, he has, despite being not on the air anymore, he's kept a presence in Ohio. He's been going to, Democratic Party county events, especially in smaller counties. He hasn't, sunk away to the shadows. He's been willing to talk with reporters and apparently to, Ted Strickland, and they sat down and had to talk about it. So I think, it's there, and we've been talking a lot about name recognition with having such a crowded field right now on both sides, and Jerry Springer would be the king of name recognition in an Ohio governor's race.
Mm-hmm. There was mentioned in the article that Ted Strickland could be his running mate. Joe Ingles, seriously?
I don't know.
That would be quite the team.
Yeah, I don't know. This is all so speculative, but I can tell you that Jerry Springer, when I talked with him, he was at the Columbus Metropolitan Club, and I was throwing him hard questions about his show, which I'll admit I'm not a fan of his show. And I was throwing him hard questions, and he came back with some answers that really you could see the audience nodding and accepting the answers. So
Yeah.
I mean, he has a way of kind of talking to people outside of that show.
Yeah, years ago when I worked for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, I actually was recruiting him to run for Congress.
Was your show on the air at the time?
Oh yeah, I met him at his show. And no, I was not on the show, but I did meet him behind the scenes at the show. And he is a very smart man. Like you said, the people see the persona of him on the TV show. But he is very well-spoken. He knows politics. He knows his stuff. And I think if he got really serious about this, again, it could be very interesting to watch. We do have some good people running, though. We have Nan Whaley from Dayton. We got former Congresswoman Betty Sutton and Connie Pillage and others.
You're right, but why are your people talking about Jerry Springer when you supposedly have all these great people that are currently running for governor?
Because your party has Donald Trump.
All right. In other campaign 2018 news, Josh Mandel has an opponent in the Republican primary for Senate. Mike Gibbons is a Cleveland investment banker. He's been active in Republican politics, but this is his first run for office.
I'm Mike Gibbons, and now I want to serve Ohio once again, this time as your United States Senator. I'm a businessman, not a politician. I speak bluntly, not in sound bites. I have experience in the real world, not in the government bureaucracy.
Gibbons likely faces long odds. Josh Mandel is very well known and can raise a lot of money. Bob Clegg, is this a serious challenge to Josh Mandel for the nomination?
Well, I think for Mr. Gibbons, it's a serious challenge. I don't know in the end, though, whether it will be serious, because like you just said, I mean, Josh has been elected statewide twice. He's got great name awareness around the state. He's been out there, in meeting people and doing things. And the final point that you brought up, which is the most important one, is he can raise a lot of money. So he can keep his name out there.
You're a TV ad guy.
Yeah.
That video is pretty slick.
Yeah.
This wasn't some guy sitting in front of a camera, YouTube video saying, I'm running and here's why. Yeah. It was very well produced. It was almost 3 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean, look at this gentleman. He's a businessman, so that means, he knows how to sell. But he's also been involved in politics, so I'm not surprised that he's got that kind of a a spot out there. I think, you know,
It showed a level of seriousness.
yeah, I think Josh would be smart to take him as a serious opponent because given the environment, the political environment we just had in 2016, who knows what it's going to be like in 2018. And an outsider like that might be somebody that looks good to Republican primary voters.
Is he, we've heard rumblings that the establishment in the Republican Party is not happy with Josh Mandel, Joe Ingles. Is he their answer?
Well, here's the problem. Josh Mandel has pretty much hitched his cart to Donald Trump. And as time goes on and we see Donald Trump's numbers kind of waning in popularity, you know, there's a lot of Republicans out there who are saying, hey, will Josh Mandel be too tied to Trump next year? Will that not work for our party? Will he be unelectable? And so you're hearing a lot of people saying maybe he goes too far and they'd like to have more of a moderate in there. And I think that's one big reason why.
Backup plan, perhaps.
Yes.
Can you raise the money, Jackie?
You know, within 24 hours of his announcement, his campaign announced he raised $250,000 from independent donors, not himself. He is also very wealthy and could probably fund this on his own, but he said that that's not his goal. That's pretty impressive if that you know turns out to be the case. You know, even raising $500,000 in a quarter, which I think is what Josh Mandel did last time, that's impressive on its own. So $250,000 in 24 hours would be, you know, and I think they did that on purpose to show that he can put up a fight against Josh, who is a well-known fundraiser.
Derek, do Democrats want to run against Josh Mandel because he is a polarizing figure? If he is hooked to Donald Trump and Trump's not popular, he seemed like he would be an easier candidate than the businessman with good credentials.
Well, I think both of these gentlemen, our treasurer and this Mr. Gibbons, are both at a disadvantage. Sherrod Brown has served the people of Ohio very well, and Treasurer Mandel is already at a disadvantage. He lost a few years ago to our senator, and Mr. Gibbons is going to have an uphill battle because nobody knows who he is. You know, Josh Mandel and both Mike Gibbons are both from the Cleveland area, so you know that's going to kind of cancel each other out. You know, they'll both have good name recognition there, but throughout the state, he just doesn't have it.
Bob, do we expect anyone else on the Republican side to jump in? We have these four very well-known candidates looking at governor. Might one of those say, you know, maybe I'll give a shot at Senate?
I mean, this is the thing that goes on when you have everybody being term limited and you have all these open seats. We have a filing deadline that's middle of February, I think, of next year. There's still a lot of room for maneuvering, not only in this U.S. Senate race, but also down ticket, where currently, you know, on our side, we have a few of the down ticket where it's just one person in the field, and that could very well change and somebody drop down and move into one of those slots.
Logistically, I know the filing deadline's in February, but if you were going to say, if you were thinking about running for governor, but you want to switch to U.S. Senate, when do you have to make that decision?
Well, Mike, I once worked for a candidate who was running for governor and decided a week before the filing deadline that he was going to run for Secretary of State, and we had already filed our petitions for governor. So you can do it. You can do it at very, very late.
It's a little different time now, though. Maybe, or will it still work?
Yeah.
That late even now?
Yeah,
even
I mean, you can
huge money and TV and.
Well, yeah, because you know you don't really start all of that until after you actually file. Yeah. So.
Okay. All right. Another year, another court case involving voter registration rules in Ohio. The U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to hear a challenge to Ohio's rule that purges voters from the rolls if they have been inactive for 6 years. Secretary of State John Huston says the program helps remove ineligible voters. Critics of the policy say it amounts to voter suppression. Jackie Borchard, what is John Huston trying to do with this rule? Ultimately, what is he trying to do? Who's he aiming it at? Folks who have died and have not been purged from the rolls?
Right. People who have died, have moved out of state, and didn't cancel their registrations. You know, he has said that multiple secretaries of state before him have followed the same process. Jennifer Brunner, a Democrat, Ken Blackwell, a Republican, and he's simply, you know, doing what they have done. It's just that things are more polarized now, and the opponents, the groups that are suing the state, are seeking to, you know, manipulate the rolls to produce a political result that benefits them. And of course, the people who are challenging him say, well, this is not right, because the law, while it does allow states to create what's called a supplemental process of removing voters from the rolls, it does say that no state should remove a voter for not voting. So technically what the state's doing isn't saying you didn't vote for 6 years, so we're taking you off. They're saying, hey, you haven't voted in a couple of elections. We're sending you a notice to let you know that you need to update your information. And then when they don't update their information after, I believe they have 2 notices on that case, then they do remove them.
Derek, you have to renew your driver's license, you have to renew other licenses. Is it truly voter suppression if you haven't voted in 6 years and don't appear to be active? Well,
it's a number of reasons why people have not updated their voter registration. But the question is, why are we not making voting easier versus harder for people? And that's where I think a lot of these groups have problems, because, if someone dies or if someone moves out of state, of course they should be purged from the roll. But we should be making voting easier in the state.
Bobby, if you look at the candidates we've had the past 6 years, you can see how some people might not want to vote.
For a lot of elections, yeah.
Only half kidding there, but I mean, is that a good enough reason to say we're going to nullify your registration?
I mean, I used to work in the Secretary of State's office, so I kind of get, why you have to do this. I mean, the problem we have here is we got to have voter registration rolls that are up to date, and so that everybody can vote. But the problem is when we have all these cluttered with dead people and people that have moved not only out of state but moved from within Ohio, county to county, and we have their registration still sitting there. You're just asking for somebody to vote back in Butler County where they were, and then again in Franklin County where they moved to, or in Ohio and Florida.
The cases of that are very, very rare. I mean,
I know, but I mean, how do you even catch them if you don't purge the files? That's what I'm saying. Yep. You got to have a purge here.
Well, and the purging of these rolls goes back also to a lawsuit that, part of that Houston is following an agreement from a lawsuit. I think it was in 2009, but settled in maybe 2011. But to keep those rolls clean, to reduce the chances of fraud, and of course, having a lot of people on your rolls, if they're dead or whatnot, that person still has to go to the polls. They have to check in, they have to show ID, and that's what makes it hard. Is actually,
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, why not do like Illinois? They got a bipartisan bill out there right now where if you go and renew your registration or your ID, then you automatically get voter registration.
But we already ask people when they go in to renew their licenses if they want to register. We should allow people to decide if they want to, not force them and then have them opt out.
Okay, let's get to our off-the-record final parting shots with Bob Clegg. You're first.
I think this opioid lawsuit is just going to be the beginning of this as the major issue, I think, in our statewide campaigns for 2018, and it's just going to snowball and get bigger and bigger.
Sure.
I just saw where Columbus is now the 14th largest state. Largest city in the country, which shows that Columbus and Ohio is going to be even more that more important as a political epicenter.
Mm-hmm. Joe?
Well, the Cavs are in it again, so I don't really have anything profound to say. I just want to say go Cavs.
Jackie?
Well, if you're out and about this weekend, you'll probably see people asking for your signature on a petition to change the congressional redistricting process. They finally got the green light to go ahead and collect signatures, and although they only have a month to make it on this ballot, they are and they're probably going to go next year, they are still going to be out in force this month, trying to get as close to that number as they can.
All right, I forget the name of the school. Forgive me, I forget the name of the school. I think it's in the Cincinnati area. They now have a major where you can major in craft beer and how to manufacture craft beer.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So now you legitimately can go to college.
Cincinnati
State, go to college and legitimately major in beer. There you go. That's Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online. Continue the discussion on Facebook and Twitter. And see each episode at our website, WOSU.org. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.